What is going on, everybody? It's good to be back here on the channel. It's been probably about a good couple weeks, guys, since we've been here. But good to be back behind here, talk to you guys, and all that kind of jazz. So I hope you guys have been doing well lately. I hope that things have been going good. You guys have been having a good week this week. I'm recording this the wee early morning hours of Wednesday, so you guys will be seeing this today. I was going to record this later on the day, but I got a handful of stuff I got to do. I got work later, so I figured I'm awake, I'm up, I'm just going to record and then upload this before I got to do what I got to do. What I want to go on here about is just some off-season stuff. Not Steel related or anything like that. If you guys have followed my channel at all, if you guys have been familiar with what I say, my channel is, yes, I love to talk about the Steelers or Pirates, Penguins, my favorite teams, but I also like to talk about other things as well going on in those respective leagues, any type of news going on in the sports world, whatever it may be. So I want to play a little bit of quarterback carousel here. There's going to be a lot of quarterback changes this year. There's so many teams that are going to be possibly getting a new quarterback. Ones that we know for sure and ones that have a possibility. And I'm going to go division by division. We're going to kind of see, and I'm doing this just for fun, guys. I'm doing this just for fun, just to put some content out, kind of maybe make some predictions. So you guys can let me know in the comments section your predictions, who you think might go where, what you think maybe that might do for the team. I'll kind of say what I might think it might do for the team a little bit. So nothing too crazy, guys. We're still not quite in the NFL offseason. The Super Bowl's this Sunday, so there's really not a lot going on other than a couple coaching situations. We've seen some coordinators being hired. We've seen a couple head coach positions being filled. I know the Cardinals are still left out there. But I'm doing this just for fun and kind of putting my thoughts out there in the sense of who I think might go where. We know Tom Brady retired, which I thought he might have played another year. But he's going to join the Fox broadcast booth, not this season, but the next year. So we'll see what happens with that. If you guys have also, before I continue on here, if you guys have noticed at all my recent post that I put up that there's not going to be an unofficial Steelers podcast until after the Super Bowl. And the reason why is just because there's not enough to really talk about. It's just going to be repetitive, and we want to be able to put some good content out there, have good discussion. But when we're talking about the same things every week, it gets tiring, gets nauseating, and it's the same old, same old. So Daniel and I, we just came to agreement after the Super Bowl. We know things are going to get kickstarted. There's going to be a handful of things to be talked about this offseason with the Steelers. So after the Super Bowl, probably that Tuesday, if not that Saturday after the Super Bowl, regardless, the week after the Super Bowl on Sunday, we will get back to the unofficial Steelers podcast. So we appreciate your guys' support with that. And also, my friend Zach, if you guys have noticed him, if you guys watch the unofficial Steelers podcast, if you guys have noticed him at all in the chat, him and I, we're going to be creating our own podcast together. I'm still going to be doing my thing here, of course, and Daniel and I, we're still going to be doing Stay the Steelers. We know Mark's obviously going to hop in from time to time and eventually come back as time goes on as well. Hope you're doing well, Mark. But we're going to start our own podcast, and I'll put some more details out there once we kind of come closer to that. Probably within the next few weeks or so, we're really going to be able to get that underway. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things. It can be from sports. It can be from things going on in the world. It can be stuff from entertainment, whatever it is. It's a pretty entertaining duo that we're going to have, and that we're going to be able to kind of go back and forth with each other. So you guys stay up to date on that as I post. If you guys are interested, keep a lookout for that. So anyway, with this NFL offseason, there are a handful of teams that are in need or might possibly upgrade at quarterback. We saw Tom Brady retire. That's number one. Everything else is on the table. Let's start in the NFC, guys. Let's start in the NFC. Let's look at the NFC West. So we got Seattle. I think we would all imagine Geno Smith is going to be staying there. Seattle will probably extend him, probably give him a 2-3 year contract, extend him. We know Seattle made the playoffs. Excuse me. We know Seattle made the playoffs. They won 9 games, and they're just gonna try to build around him. We don't quite know if this was a 1-year deal for Geno. We know that it's taken him 9-10 years to really get to this point, and he's really kind of been a career backup. But it's honestly was a really cool story. It was really cool to see him kind of come in there when he filled in for the injured Russell Wilson last year in Seattle. He did pretty good. So they stuck with him, and he had a good year. He was a top 10 quarterback this year in a lot of categories. So if you're Seattle, if you're a Seahawks fan, yeah, I would say you keep him around, and you add what you can add, and you keep making that push, right? You keep making that push. So Geno Smith's going to stay there. We know Matthew Stafford's going back to the Rams. We know Kyler Murray's still with Arizona. So San Francisco is an interesting team. Brock Purdy is probably going to be out the entire season next year. He had elbow surgery, UCL, I believe it was Tommy John surgery, and it's too bad because he was a good story. He was thriving really well in San Francisco's offense and what they were doing. I feel like really any quarterback that they put back there does well. It's just absolutely crazy the type of offensive minds they have on that roster. They've done a good job at drafting over the years. So Brock Purdy seems to be out of the picture. So you enter back Trey Lance, who you traded multiple first-round picks for a couple years ago. He's only played, 3 games in the NFL. He's been getting hurt. He's not available. I don't know really how they're viewing him. I would imagine they still want to give him another opportunity where he's at full health, where he's able to have a handful of games underneath his belt. So I'm not quite sure what the viewpoint is on him. But aside from Trey Lance, I would still imagine that they're still going to bring in another quarterback. They've said Jimmy Garoppolo is not coming back. He's going to get a different opportunity somewhere else. They're going to have a fresh, clean slate. It's probably best for both parties nonetheless. He got hurt as well earlier in the season. So let's look at quarterbacks for San Francisco. So you have Trey Lance, right? You have Trey Lance. I would imagine, like I said, they're going to want to get him back healthy. They're going to want to see what he can do in camp, in training camp, in the preseason, and really make a decision from there. But I would imagine that they would probably also look on the market to bring someone else as well to bring some competition. And I don't really see them trading for a quarterback. I mean, really, what can they give up? If they're going to trade for a Rodgers or a Carr or somebody like that, what are they going to ultimately give up? They have no freaking high-end picks. So I think that they're probably going to stick with Trey Lance, and they're going to look at one of these quarterbacks on the market, probably. One guy out there, I don't know. There's a handful of them, man. I mean, there's probably going to be some quarterbacks that get cut too. Maybe a Baker Mayfield, maybe they might bring in. I could see that. Mitch Trubisky, anybody? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be somebody that's on the free agent market. Maybe there's a quarterback that gets released that's maybe a bottom tier starter, high end backup that they might bring in as well. They're not going to draft quarterback. Obviously, they don't have the draft picks for that either. And I think as well, just they're not, in terms of trading for a quarterback, there's not going to be one they're going to be able to get. So I think that's what we're looking at for them. Let's go to the NFC East. Dallas Cowboys, we know they're sticking with Dak Prescott. Giants, I would imagine they're going to bring back Daniel Jones on some kind of contract. They're going to stick with him. Philly, we know they're going to extend Jalen Hurts. So now you're looking at Washington. Washington, ever since RG3 went down with injury back in 2012, Washington has not been able to figure out the quarterback position. They've gone through a quarterback carousel. They have gone through different quarterback after different quarterback, and so on and so on. They have not been able to figure out. They've been a mess of an organization. The owner's a disaster. So Taylor Heineke's been a quarterback for them the last couple years. Carson Wentz they traded for just did not work out. Sam Howell is going to be their quarterback. It's going to be Sam Howell. They drafted him in the 3rd round or so, and I'm pretty sure they even said that Sam Howell was going to have the starting job. Now, I'm sure that they'll probably bring somebody in just for some competition there, or in case maybe Sam Howell struggles or there's an injury. So, of course, they'll probably do that route. Maybe they'll just keep Carson Wentz on the roster. But I think Sam Howell's going to be the guy if all things go well for him in the offseason. He's going to get an opportunity. He played in the last game of the season for them. He showed some good things. It's all about opportunity. I think Sam Howell goes with Washington. Now, when we look at what we said in the NFC West, you look at the Rams are sticking with Stafford. Doesn't seem like they're really quite the team they were. They might trade Jalen Ramsey. They're getting a little bit older. They don't have many draft picks. They're in cap purgatory. So I don't really see much other than the Rams going all in when Goff was there shortly toward the end of Goff's tenure to them trading for Matthew Stafford. It's not really looking too good. It's really not. The Cardinals have zero leadership. They have new management. I don't think the Cardinals are a bad roster. I don't think they're a bad team necessarily. But they got to get their coaching right. And I think until they do that, I think the Cardinals are still right here. I think if they can get their coaching right, they can try to rebuild a defense a little bit. I think sooner or later they can find themselves back in some type of competitive playoff push. Not right now. Seattle, if they can add the right pieces, build on what you have, they can be a competitive team again. And with San Francisco, you really have all the pieces there except for quarterback. So whatever you do at quarterback, that's going to tell, but I have more than enough confidence that if it's Trey Lance and he's healthy, or if it's somebody that they bring in to be a bridge guy, that they can still win double-digit games. It's just, you look at the coaching and the type of talent they have all around there, it's phenomenal. We said with the NFC East, it's a pretty tough division. Giants got better this year. The Giants have been in a spot of rebuilding, and they just haven't been able to get to where they want to get to. They bring in new coaching, and you just see how important it is. They finally flourished. They had a breakthrough, so they're obviously going to try to build on top of that. The Eagles, they're in a great spot. Dallas, I still think they're in a pretty good spot as well. We'll see what happens with their offense now, but they have some decisions they got to make. And Washington's still the odd man out in that division. That they really are right now. And I'm not here while the offseason hasn't even happened. I'm not here making predictions for teams. I'm not here saying what teams are good, what teams aren't, when we really haven't had, when the NFL offseason hasn't even started yet, the draft, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not making predictions on that. I'm just saying, when we look at the quarterbacks for these teams and some of these quarterbacks that are going to be transitioning different teams, what might they be able to offer? Will that be a betterment for that team? So we'll see what happens as the offseason goes on. But Washington, we know, I think it's going to be Sam Howell. Going to the NFC South, this is going to be really interesting. All 4 teams could really get a new quarterback. You look at Carolina, they're going to be looking for a new quarterback. It's hard for me to see them stick with Sam Darnold. You look at, and they did draft Matt Corral, and he was out all last year, so I would imagine Matt Corral will probably still get a look or something like that in training camp. We look at Tampa Bay. They have a vacancy. The Saints are going to be looking to upgrade at quarterback. And we have the Falcons. Will they stick with Desmond Ridder? Will they go somewhere else? For Tampa Bay is the most interesting team because they have a handful of free agents, and they have guys that are under some pretty hefty contracts. So could they cut some of those guys? Could they trade some of those guys? I have no idea. But if Tampa Bay wants to stay competitive and not tear it down, not rebuild, and that's the thing. Look, a lot of times, once a team's tenure or a run is done, then we know that they might have to enter a rebuild. But depending how that organization is and that franchise, that will really determine how long these rebuilds go for. We look at teams, multiple teams in the NFL, that have been rebuilding for years and years, and it just hasn't stopped. The rebuild has never stopped. The rebuild has never gotten there. Or you look at teams that might have to start entering that, and it only lasts a short period of time. Or you look at teams that might not really even need to enter that phase. So Tampa Bay, they got key free agents, but they still have some talent there. So could they trade for a veteran quarterback? Yeah, they could. They have Kyle Trask, who they drafted a couple years ago. I think that they're going to go out of their way and that they're either going to trade for a quarterback, I think, or they're going to go out of their way and maybe bring someone in to be a bridge guy. And that's what I think they're going to do. I think that they're going to, whether somebody gets cut or whether they make a trade for a mid-late round pick, I don't think they're going to trade for a high-end quarterback. I don't. I think that they're going to go get a bridge guy. They're not going to, be this rebuild type team necessarily, but I think that they'll go get a bridge guy like a Jimmy G. I could really see Jimmy Garoppolo being the quarterback at Tampa Bay. I think that's what they'll do. That's just my opinion. I think when you just look at the roster that's there, the talent that's there, I still think they might be able to view themselves as a team that might be able to stay afloat with a bridge guy until they find their next quarterback. Looking at the Saints, I like the Saints a lot. The Saints didn't really have that great of a season. We know the quarterback situation was a mess. Had some injuries on defense, but they have some good talent on defense. If guys are healthy, they can still have one of the better defenses in the league. They have Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, They still got Michael Thomas, but he's injury prone. You can always add to the wide receiver group. Jarvis Landry's a free agent, but they have talent there. They do. They have some talent on the offensive line. I think if they can go out of their way and go find a quarterback, I really think that they can find themselves really maybe being the best team in the NFC South. Because still, hey, if their defense is healthy, I still think they have a strong defense, man. If they go out, you add a couple weapons on the offense, figure out what you do at quarterback, you might be able to set yourself up for success this year. I could see Derek Carr going here. And anyway, speaking of Derek Carr, the Raiders gave him permission to talk to the Saints. There's no trade right now. But, they're going to feel each other out, kind of see what's what. So I could see Derek Carr there. And I think that Derek Carr is a guy that's always been a more slightly outside of a top 10 quarterback. Derek Carr isn't a guy that is an elite quarterback, but he's a guy that still can be a quarterback of your team for quite a while. And I still think brings success, bring wins to your team. I don't think the Raiders did him any favors throughout his career. They've had putrid defenses. They failed to build anything around him. So I think if he can go to a team like the Saints, I think the Saints got better structure than the Raiders, in my opinion. I think they have better management. I think they have better coaching. And, I think if they can get a guy like that, that's a massive upgrade over what they've had the last 3 years, they might be able to find themselves right at the top of the NFC South. Let's look at Carolina. Carolina, they went with Baker Mayfield to start the year. It was a failure. Sam Darnold is a bust. He's a backup quarterback in this league. Carolina, I think they're just going to draft quarterback, man. I really do. I think if you're Carolina, you got to stop bringing in guys that are either damaged goods. Stop shuffling around quarterbacks. P.J. Walker, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield. Go draft somebody. They haven't really drafted a quarterback in a little while. Go with a first round pick. So go draft somebody. Like I said, I know that Matt Corral's there, but I think that they'll do that. Whether it's Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, it really depends how things shake up in the offseason. I would go draft one of those guys. That's what I would do. If the opportunity's there, I think they should do that, and I think they will get one of those three guys. When you look at the who's the other last team? Atlanta. Okay, Atlanta. Now, I told my friend Zach that I mentioned earlier, he's a Baltimore Ravens fan. I said Lamar is going to get traded to the Falcons. Do I stay by that? I'm still kind of confident in that. And the reason why is because you saw how much Atlanta was willing to go all out for Deshaun Watson. It really seemed like Atlanta was going to be the team he was going to go to until Cleveland gave him the full guaranteed contract. So I could really see Atlanta. Atlanta's got the picks to do that type of deal. And I could see Atlanta being a team that lands Lamar Jackson. If they don't, I I still think Atlanta might bring in another guy to compete with Desmond Ridder, whether maybe that's Ryan Tannehill if he gets cut. Maybe that's one of these quarterbacks that are going to be on the market. Atlanta's still in a rebuilding stage. I don't really see them getting up there and being able to really draft a quarterback. Now, they could, of course, but I think that they've done an okay job at making strides each year. But Desmond Ridder, we know, is questionable, and he was a rookie. He struggled a little bit, so he's going to get some more opportunity, as he should. But that's why, as well, I could see them bringing in a veteran guy that's been around to be a bridge guy. Maybe Ridder can learn from a little bit, and you go from there. So if it's not going to be Lamar, I could see it being Ryan Tannehill. I could see it being really any type of quarterback that has been starting or has started somewhere and is in need of another opportunity. I really could. But Lamar is still my front runner and being the Atlanta Falcons quarterback next year. Switching off from the NFC South, let's look at the NFC North. Green Bay is really the only team in this division that nobody knows what's going to happen at quarterback. It's either going to be Aaron Rodgers or it's going to be Jordan Love. I don't think there's any in between. So nobody knows whose it's going to be. I could see it being both ways. It's either one, it's Aaron and Jordan Love request a trade and they trade him and it's officially labeled a failure of a draft pick. Or they trade Aaron, they get multiple first-round picks for him, and they rock with Jordan Love. Jordan Love's been riding the pine for almost 4 years now. They took him with the first overall pick in 2020, I believe. And he's hardly started games, maybe 3-4 games. But honestly, I will say, and again, it's a small sample size, of course, but when we saw Jordan Love throughout his first 2 years in a couple games, compared to when we saw him this past year, I think it was against Kansas City, maybe. I forget what team. But Jordan Love looked damn impressive, man. He really did. He looked poised, he looked confident, he looked ready to play. Other times when Jordan Love was on the field playing, he looked a little scared, looked shaken, maybe not quite confident, still raw. So if I'm Green Bay, if you can unload Aaron, you unload that contract, you rock with Jordan Love. He's got one year left on his rookie deal. You can add the fifth year option. And you can add a little bit to your offense, something that they haven't done in quite a long time. They don't draft receivers early or anything. I don't understand. But still, I think that it might be time to do that, because you look at Green Bay, you look at the team you had this year, and you had Aaron, and you didn't really do much. You traded Devontae Adams, and you didn't really do much to help him, to give him what he needed. Yeah, it's a little bit of a banged-up O-line. I still think Aaron is a high-end quarterback. At age 39, I still think he is. Sure, Aaron didn't really blow anybody away last year, but I think when you put everything into context with last year, I still think Aaron can get the job done. I still think that if he's put on a right team, I still think he can make a run. But the thing is, if you're Green Bay, you've looked over these let's say the last 4 years, with Aaron, with Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. You have some guys on defense, and you've been losing in the first round, maybe the second round, or you missed the playoffs. So they missed the playoffs this year, obviously. So it might be time to just move on. Move on. So I'm going to say Green Bay's quarterback's going to be Jordan Love. I think they are going to trade Aaron. I think they are ready to move on. I think that they want to look and see what they have with Jordan Love, that they don't want to label him or their pick being a failure. I think they are. I think they're going to trade Aaron. I think they're going to get a couple first-round picks for him. I think Green Bay is going to draft a receiver, help out Jordan Love as well. So you're going to have Christian Watson. You're going to draft a receiver. You have Romeo Doubs there still. I could see them bring in another guy in free agency. Maybe they upgrade at tight end. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. At the same time, you're still grateful, if you're a Packers fan, for what Aaron's done. Aaron has had a phenomenal career. It's crazy that he's only won one Super Bowl. It really is. It's crazy to think he's only won one Super Bowl, and that was 13 years ago. It's really crazy. He's only been to one as well. It's insane. But I think Jordan Love's going to be the quarterback. And then all the other 3 teams in that division, it's going to stay the same. Moving on to the AFC. AFC East, we know Buffalo. You got Josh Allen. You got the Patriots. They're going to stick with Mac Jones again. I'm not a big Mac Jones fan. I never really was sold on him as being a guy that can be your quarterback for a while or even be a franchise-type guy. He doesn't blow me out of the water. To me, he's boring. But they're still going to stick with him, and that's okay. The 2 teams in here, you have the Jets and you have the Dolphins. If the Dolphins stick with Tua, he's going to be owed, I believe, $24 million maybe. I might be mistaken on that, if depending on what year he's entering. But Tua, to me, he's had injury problems throughout college, and he's a good dude. Tua honestly had a pretty good season. I think Mike McDaniel did a lot of good things for that offense. They brought in Tyreek Hill for him. They have Jalen Waddle. They have some good young talent defensively. I thought he had a pretty solid year, all things considered. But the man had 3 concussions this season. And you look at how serious really every single one was. And then this last one, how long it's kept him out for. And no one really knows how healthy he is right now. So I'm not going to be someone that says, oh, Tua should retire, this or that. I mean, who am I to say that? That's his decision. That's up to him if he wants to keep playing, if he's healthy enough to keep playing. But if you're Miami, do you consider, if there's somebody there, do you consider moving off him? I think you consider it. Maybe there's something there for Lamar. Maybe there's something there for Derek Carr. Aaron. I think if you have the ability to get to upgrade, especially with what you have on offense, especially with how good Miami was playing up until really the Tua injuries came intact, I think you might have to do that. So we'll see what happens with him. But I think if they would move off Tua, I think they're going to keep him, and I think they're going to give it one more year. But if they do move off him, I think that they'll make a move for maybe a more stronger end quarterback. That's what I think will happen there. The Jets is very interesting. The Jets have been very adamant about adding a veteran quarterback, about adding a quarterback. Hold on, guys. If you guys see anything in this video where it kind of doesn't really cut off but kind of shifts, I have to stop the video real quick and start again. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Like I said, you guys were going to see a little skip there. I had to kind of get up and do something real quick. Because after I record this, I'm going to wrap up and call it night. Like I said, you guys will be seeing this during the day Wednesday. Like I said, I've been up in the wee hours. Not sure why my hat's all freaking crooked. There we go. Been kind of up here in the wee hours of the morning on Wednesday, so you guys will be seeing this later in the day. But I had to do something real quick, so forgive me for that. But anyway, continuing on. Well, we were talking about the Jets, right? We're talking about the Jets. We talked about the Dolphins, Tua. The Jets are an interesting team, and I think that if the Jets can nail the quarterback position, they're another team. They've had a hard time finding a quarterback for God knows how long. I mean, when was the last good Jets quarterback? Maybe, do we dare say Ryan Fitzpatrick? I mean, he had a pretty good year in 2015. Other than that, I mean, the Jets have not been able to find a franchise guy, a guy to carry that organization. I don't know how long. They drafted Zach Wilson. I knew he was going to be a failure there. And it's not to say Zach Wilson can't kind of get his career back on track, but I don't think he's going to be in New York much longer. The Jets have been adamant, and they've said too, they've been adamant about that they're going to acquire a quarterback from outside. They looked at they see the team they had this year. They knew they were held back by offense, by the quarterback situation. They had one of the best defenses in the league. They have a rebuilt offensive line that took them a little bit, but it's been rebuilt for a couple years. Breece Hall will be back from an ACL, which is concerning, but still nonetheless, he will be back. He looked dynamic this past season when he was playing. You have Zonovan Knight. You have Michael Carter. They have guys there at running back. Wide receiver, you got Elijah Moore. You got Garrett Wilson. You can always add somebody. You got Tyler Conklin there at tight end. They have, if they can find a quarterback that can elevate the offense, I mean, man, they got guys to work with. They really do. If the Jets can go get a quarterback on the outside, if they can go get a quarterback from the outside, a quarterback that can take them from here where they were last year to right up here, that can elevate the offense, I think they're going to be in pretty good shape. I really do. And I think their quarterback should be Aaron Rodgers. I do. I think the Jets have the picks. They've been adamant about that. They'll do whatever it takes to get a guy like that. I think it is going to be Aaron. I think Green Bay is going to trade him outside the NFC. They're going to probably trade him to wherever the best deal is. Aaron doesn't really necessarily have a say. But I think it's going to be the Jets. I really do. I know I mentioned Aaron with the Raiders. I could see the Raiders for Aaron. I could, but there's just something about the Jets, man, that I feel like that they're going to go all out. And if it's not Aaron, my second guy is Derek Carr. So let me put it this way. I'm not 100% going to say it's Aaron because obviously I don't know. But I think for Aaron, as I said with Green Bay, I think they're going to trade him. And I think it's going to be two teams. It's going to be the Jets or it's going to be the Raiders. I think whoever offers the best package, that's where he's going to go. I could see Derek Carr as well for the Jets. I know I mentioned Derek Carr with the Saints, which would make sense. I could still see the Saints maybe trading up and drafting quarterback. I could see the Saints looking somewhere else as well on the outside. But I feel like if the Jets don't land Aaron, it's going to be Derek Carr. I think it's going to be Aaron or Derek Carr for the Jets. If I'm going to say something, if I'm going to put money on it, I know before I said Derek Carr to the Jets. But I just feel like the Jets would be able to give up a really good package. I really do. I really do. So I'm gonna leave it. It's gonna be Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. That's where I think at. That's where I think. I'm honestly kind of 50-50 torn on who it's gonna be. Moving on from that, but again, if the Jets are able to get somebody, if they can get somebody from the outside, they'll be in good shape. Let's look at the AFC North. Steelers, they're not going to do anything there. We know they got Kenny Pickett. Browns, Watson, Bengals, Joe Burrow. He's going to probably get a contract extension this offseason. Lamar Jackson. I said I do not think Lamar Jackson is going to return to the Ravens. I know the Ravens either did or they are planning on applying the franchise tag on him. That's what I think is going to happen, man. The Ravens and Lamar are far from a deal. They've been far from a deal. I think they're going to keep negotiating, but I think it's going to get to the point the Ravens aren't going to give him what he wants, man. And why does Lamar deserve a high-end contract? Tell me why. Because Lamar has all these wins as a Ravens quarterback? He hasn't done anything in the playoffs. He hasn't, to me, done anything groundbreaking since he won MVP in 2019. I've never been a big Lamar fan, and it's not because he's on the Ravens. I think Lamar can be fun to watch sometimes. I think he's a great athlete. I think he's a talented all-around player. But he's never been my cup of tea of a quarterback. And I've always said my biggest concern with him was once he started getting into his 30s, how much of a different player is he going to become? His legs aren't going to be the same. He's not going to be running around, hopping around, or anything like that like he is in his mid-20s. So, and I think, too, you take into account the injuries this guy's had. When you look at the last 2 years with the type of injuries this guy had, it adds up to almost really a full season. He's out when it matters. I mean, do you really want to give all this guaranteed money to this guy and then you're in pretty much purgatory at that point? Now, I understand as well, you look at what the Ravens have done without Lamar, it's been dreadful. So I understand as well, the other side, you can't let a guy like that walk. And he does. He does mean a lot to the franchise. He has won them a lot of games. I think he's good when it comes to when he's playing with a lead. And I think Lamar is a guy that can bring you wins. I think he's a guy that long as you're playing everything to his type of style, Sure, I think that he can be a quarterback for your team for a handful of years. Do I think Lamar's an elite quarterback? No, I don't. Do I think Lamar's a franchise guy? I'm kind of up and down on that. And I don't use the term franchise quarterback loosely. Just because someone's your quarterback doesn't mean he's a franchise quarterback or he's your franchise quarterback. I think when you look at franchise quarterbacks, to me, those are guys that are going to be guys that are going to carry your organization for many years, bring wins, championships, whatever the case is an elite guy. And a lot of times it's hard to find that type of player. Now, I think over time it's gotten better, it's gotten easier in terms of finding solid to good quarterbacks. I think there's a handful of quarterbacks in the NFL that match that criteria, solid to good quarterbacks, right? But with the state of the NFL right now, it's a lot of youth. There's a lot of young quarterbacks. We see a lot of the veteran guys are retiring. Really, the only ones left are Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. So it's a youth movement with the quarterbacks in the NFL. And to me, there's really only a few that I consider in elite territory. I think that there's a handful of guys I think are solid to good. I think maybe guys that still need to show more if they can ultimately be a franchise type guy for you. But I don't use that term loosely. I really don't. And so with Lamar, I don't know what the Ravens do. I really don't. But if I'm going to make a prediction, I think he's going to get traded. I really do. I think he's going to price himself out. I think teams are going to be willing to match what the Ravens want for him. And I think the Ravens are hesitant on giving him money for those type of reasons. So, Ravens quarterback, since I have Lamar going to the Falcons, I could see them drafting a quarterback early. I could see them bringing back Tyler Huntley. I could see them maybe going toward a bridge quarterback. Maybe they acquire Desmond Ridder if the Falcons trade Lamar Jackson and they go with Desmond Ridder for a year. I don't know. So when I look at quarterbacks on the free agent market, or when I think of quarterbacks, I don't really quite see anybody I feel like the Ravens would go out and get. Let me see. Let me pull some up. Bear with me, guys. If you see my screen freezing a little bit, it's just because I'm getting out of where my camera's at. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Free agent quarterbacks. Let's look. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, let's look here. Let's look. So if the Ravens would trade Lamar, they're obviously going to get first-round picks. So it really just depends what team that would be, where their picks are at, and if the Ravens would want to move up, maybe select a C.J. Stroud, a Bryce Young. Would they want to wait a year, maybe bring in a bridge guy? So let's see if there's anybody that would match maybe what the Ravens style of offense will do. And I'm not going to randomly name names. I'm just going to see here. I don't see Geno Smith being a guy for that. I mean, there's really nobody. I said they could always bring back Tyler Huntley. Gardner Minshew probably wouldn't really be too ideal. Jacoby Brissett. Like I said, I don't really see Geno Smith there. Yeah, so it's honestly a pretty piss poor quarterback class on the free agent market, unless there's a team maybe that has a low end quarterback that they cut or release. But yeah, I think with the Ravens quarterback, it still could be Lamar if they get a deal done. But I'm making the prediction it doesn't get done. He ends up getting traded. The Ravens get multiple first round picks, and so if I'm going by my prediction, Lamar going to the Falcons, I'm going to say Desmond Ridder is going to be their quarterback. Desmond Ridder will be, that's my prediction. If I'm going to base it off that, Desmond Ridder, I think, would be the Ravens quarterback. I do, unless they took one early this year. And then, like I said, too, even though I thought even though I made a prediction earlier to my friend that Lamar was going to get traded to Atlanta. I still kind of like that idea. I still could kind of see it. If you're the Jets too, Lamar's on the table too. And that's another guy when I was talking about the Jets I forgot about. Lamar's another guy I think the Jets could go all out for. And honestly, I think Lamar would fit in really well there. I really do. Miami's an option. What about a team like the Texans? Wouldn't that be terrible for him? But I don't really see that happening. I don't think that they're going to give up a lot of draft capital, especially as they're rebuilding. But yeah, so I'll go with Desmond Ridder just because I am liking the feeling of Lamar maybe getting traded to a team like Atlanta. But if he gets traded somewhere, they're going to get high draft picks, and I still could see them maybe taking one in the first round or something. Anthony Richardson's a guy as well, so from Florida, so that's possible. Going to the AFC West, we look at Kansas City, we look at the Chargers, we look at the Broncos. All their quarterbacks are set. Raiders, what do the Raiders do? So Aaron Rodgers still on the table for the Raiders. I said for Aaron, I could see the Jets, I could see the Raiders where he goes. So we have Aaron Rodgers there. If not, I think the Raiders will just probably draft a quarterback. When you look at teams drafting quarterback, you look at the Texans, you look at the Raiders, you look at Carolina. If Baltimore trades Lamar, that's always possible. I think it's Atlanta, if that's ever on the table, that's still possible. I think the Saints, that's always still possible. So I think if you're the Raiders, if you do not land Aaron, Derek Carr's gone. I think going after a quarterback in the first round might be a possibility. Or you look at a team like the Raiders, maybe they bring in a Jimmy G. He has ties with Josh McDaniels. The Raiders still kind of have a handful of work to do as well. So they have they need some help on the O-line. Josh Jacobs a free agent. What are they going to do with Darren Waller? So they could still be in a spot too where maybe they look at a bridge guy and they just try to make the team better. And then in another year or two, they draft a quarterback. So I don't know. If I'm going to say, if it's not Aaron, I'm going to say that they try to draft a quarterback. And then they go from there. Maybe they bring in a bridge guy. They compete that even if they draft a quarterback in the second round. I don't know. I'm gonna go with that. We look at the AFC South. Tennessee possibly might need one. We know the Texans are going to take one. I think Texans will end up taking Stroud or Young. Jags are good. And Indianapolis. Indianapolis, my God, you guys need to draft quarterback too. And I know that I've said this for multiple teams that I could see drafting a quarterback. If the Ravens trade Lamar, the Saints could always jump up. Atlanta could always take a leap. Carolina could take a leap. But that's not me saying that all those teams are going to draft quarterback. I mean, they're not. There's probably only three or four that are going to go in the first round. So if you're the Colts, when I talk about a team drafting a quarterback, this is a team that needs to draft one. If you're a Colts fan, you have to be over and done with the trading for a quarterback. They've had a different quarterback the last 6-7 years, however long it's been. You need to draft one. You need to. The time's over of the trades, of the flip-flopping around. I mean, my God. The amount of quarterbacks this team has gone through over the last, since Andrew Luck retired in 2018 is freaking insane. Draft a quarterback, and I think they will. So let's look at all the teams that are going to need a quarterback. We look at, San Francisco, if, depending on Trey Lance. We look at Washington Commanders possibly, if they're going to bring someone in alongside Sam Howell. That's 2. We look at the Saints, 3, Carolina 4, Tampa Bay 5, Falcons possibly 6, Green Bay if they trade Aaron, it's going to be Jordan Love, so I'm not going to count Green Bay, so we're at 6. Raiders 7, Miami maybe, I'm not going to count them right now, Jets 8, you look at the Colts 9, Texans 10, if Baltimore trades Lamar, that'd be 11. Am I missing anybody? So that's 10, 11 teams that might need that either are going 100% need one or might possibly need a quarterback next year. That's a lot. And that's going to be a lot of turnover and change. There's some guys in the market. There's going to be guys that probably get cut that have started before that might get another opportunity like Baker Mayfield. I could see Baker Mayfield landing with one of those 10, 11 teams, getting an opportunity in camp and maybe getting one final chance to start. That's an example. So, I don't know. Those are kind of my predictions. I know there's a few teams I did not kind of really set in stone. I just kind of named a few names. But really, at the end of the day, man, it's hard to predict. It's hard to say. But kind of wanted to come on here, have some fun with the video, maybe make some quarterback predictions on who I think it's going to be, who maybe a few different names that are on the market could go here, could go there, things like that. But really the biggest names, when you look at Aaron, he's either going to stay at Green Bay or I think it's either going to be the Jets or the Raiders. And I'm honestly a big 50-50 split on that. Lamar, who knows what happens with him? He could stay. He could get a contract. He could play on the tag. They could trade him. I feel like it's more of a highly percentage chance he ends up getting traded. Derek Carr, Saints are interesting. I think you look at, like I said, the Jets. I think Miami. Maybe you take a look there if you're the Dolphins. I think those are maybe a few teams that top my head for Derek Carr. And there's a few that are either 100%, going to draft quarterback like the Texans, and I feel like the Colts are 100%. Or you look at teams that maybe might not quite be 100%, like a team like Atlanta or New Orleans. But still, there's probably going to be a team that takes a jump over another team and grabs one. So we've seen that happen before many times before. But anyway, it's going to be a fun offseason to kind of see everything unroll. And I'm going to talk about that here. Like, I'm going to be talking about Steelers offseason moves. I'm going to be talking about all the things in the offseason that are really worth talking about on here that's happening across the NFL. So there's just been a lot of talk with Aaron and Carr and Lamar and stuff like that. So I kind of want to come on here, give some predictions out there and everything like that. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments, who you think might be playing where, what you guys think about my predictions, stuff like that. I know it's been a little while, like I said, a week and a half, 2 weeks since I've uploaded. I try to upload the best I can. I know before, too, I said on the last time I did the Unofficial Series podcast, I was going to do something about the Royal Rumble. Obviously, that did not happen. Ran out of time, got busy with a lot of other things. But I'll do some wrestling content here and there whenever I can and stuff like that, too. But nonetheless, guys, I appreciate your support. Appreciate you tuning in. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the sub, guys. We're trying to grow the channel the best we can. And that's just what we're going to keep doing. So today's Wednesday. If you guys want to follow me on Facebook, in Heintz site, it's in the description to keep up with things with the channel. Do that if you want to keep up with the channel at all. I'll probably put up some posts here and there as well that on YouTube, on my community page that talks about when I'm going to upload. And not quite sure when I'll upload again. I just kind of do it whenever I have the time, the ability. I would love to be able to kind of keep a normal schedule, but it's hard. It's hard. So I try the best I can, guys. And I think especially once the offseason gets going, we'll definitely be a lot more fluent. But anyway, guys, appreciate your support and everything like that. We will be back as soon as we can. Hopefully it's not 2 weeks. I don't think it will be. I'd imagine it probably will be a week after the Super Bowl. Like I said, earlier on, Daniel and I will start back up the Unofficial Steelers podcast after the Super Bowl, so that will be content within itself. Will probably be something the week after the Super Bowl that we put out. So stay tuned, guys, but I appreciate your support and everything. Have a good rest of your week, guys. We will see you next week. Take care.